Welcome back to the eSellerCafe news show and podcast. I'm not quite sure. It's a show, it's a podcast, we're live, it's a recording, who knows. But welcome, wherever you are choosing to listen to us or watch us today. Today is the 11th of December, 2017. My name is Dave. I'm your co-host, along with Richard in sunny, warm Florida. How are you, sir?
I'm doing well. Yeah, last Monday was a bit of a quagmire. You were flying back from Rome, and I was unexpectedly driving earlier to Daytona for a test for my other little job that I have with the racing series. And they wanted me there at 3 in the afternoon. Usually I would have just driven up in the evening, and the test was Tuesday, Wednesday. So I got all a little combobulated, screwed up. And then I ended up with a problem on Thursday when we were going to do a podcast. So it's like okay, you know what? Sometimes it's just not going to go your way. And
so, that's one of those things. But to be fair, of all the weeks that it could have happened, last week was probably the best one because it was pretty quiet. On the whole, obviously, in the hype of Black Friday and Cyber Monday week, not many businesses were releasing much news. Obviously, we had the launch of Amazon Australia, which I did cover on Thursday in a sort of mini podcast for you. Richard would have joined, but obviously, like I said, was traveling back from Daytona. So it was.
I think when you did the podcast on Tuesday, it would have been a little noisy where I was standing because I sent you a picture of us standing like. For those people that don't know, I occasionally work for a company called IMSA, which is owned by NASCAR. We run sports car races like Le Mans and Daytona 24 Hours. Now we don't run Le Mans, but we run some of the cars that run Le Mans and with us as well. And so we had this 2-day technical test. And I worked pit out, and that was just about the most boring place to be for two days.
You had some new prototypes there as well, didn't you?
Yeah, I had some new prototypes, but after they go by you a couple times, you're like, okay, well, what am I going to do for the next 7 hours?
Not set on fire yet, so yeah, guess it works.
Yeah, it's not the same as the race weekend where there's actually something that goes on. It's kind of like, okay, Imagine standing on the side of a road and watching cars go by. That's exactly what this is like.
Yeah. I feel sorry for you now.
Well, you have to pay attention because you're kind of in a dangerous spot. So it's not like you can just sit down and not do it. It's kind of like, it was almost tempted to write stories, but like, no, I can't do that. They're paying me to be here, so I got to do this. Anyways, way off topic on this one.
With that, as always. So with that said, today is Green Monday. We'll be having a bit of a chat about that in a moment. This isn't. I've heard of it before, but here in the UK, Green Monday just isn't really a thing.
I have to be honest that I think that this year is the first time I've ever really heard it called that.
Right.
It's an eBay invention, effectively.
Oh, okay.
And I know that, in the past when I was sold on eBay, they always would talk about, getting ready. I guess maybe they've used the word Green Monday, but since what I was selling wasn't really a holiday item, I never paid much attention to it. So
interesting. So today apparently is Green Monday. We'll be chatting more about that. It's also 13 days until Christmas. As we said last week, it was a bit of a weird week, bit of a disruptive one, but we're back to normal. And with that said, quick mention of our sponsor. Today's sponsor is Understanding E, which is a website dedicated to helping small to medium-sized sellers sell on multiple channels utilizing Magento as multi-channel software. They've also just released an email marketing guide for your e-commerce business. So again, if email marketing is something which is maybe a weak point for your business or something which you've yet to get started with, they've created the course along with a blogging course and an outsourcing course to help you make the most of your e-commerce business and do things the right way. So again, thank you to the guys for sponsoring that. And also, we are now on Alexa. Tune in so you can actually listen to this podcast. We're trying to make this as easy for you to consume as possible. So we have the written article which goes along with this on the site over on eSellerCafe.com. We have the YouTube channel. You can join in live. But obviously some people won't be able to do that due to work. We then have the podcast, which is on iTunes and also Google Play. And also tune in, and tune in connects with Alexa. So now, whilst you're at home in the comfort of your own home doing whatever it is that you do, you can ask your Alexa device to play the e-commerce news show, and we will start telling you all about the latest, greatest news of e-commerce that week. I've actually recorded a very quick video showing you how easy that is. So expect that to go live on the eSellerCafe YouTube channel shortly, as well as the Facebook page as well. It's quite a lot of fun video put together. So yeah, that's it. You really kept, we're making it very difficult for you to ignore us, basically.
Really are.
We're going to start doing take over CBS. We'll be on HBO. You know.
Kings of all digital media, right?
Absolutely, absolutely. So, with that said, with the introductions out the way, let's get started with our lightning round. As always, for anyone who is new here, maybe doesn't know the format that we follow. We have a lightning round where we give you a rundown of all the sort of smaller news pieces throughout the week, give you a high-level overview of what's been going on. And then after that, we get stuck into some of the juicier, meatier topics in our discussion round where we get a little bit more involved. Me and Richard will have a little chat about it, as well as anyone who is joining us live on YouTube as well. Feel free to jump in on the chat box there and share your thoughts and let us know what you think. We'd love for you to get involved. With that said, anything that we mention, all the links are underneath this YouTube video. So if you click show more, you'll be able to see all the links there. If you're on the eSellerCafe website, all the links are in the main article there. And if you're listening to the podcast, you can either click the link over on the left side of the page on iTunes, which says take you to the websites, take you to the podcast website, and all the links are there. And if you're listening to Alexa, I'm not really sure what to suggest for you other than to head over to eSellerCafe.com in your own time, and you'll be able to find all the links that you would need there.
Maybe that'll be improvement. Maybe that will be an improvement next year that Amazon come up with. It's where you can say, Alexa, take me to the link, and then it will just read off the link.
Yeah, that'd be quite cool, wouldn't it?
We're lazy people.
Dictating blog posts. Yeah. Who knows? Jeff, that's a free idea for you, mate. Anyway, Richard, it's over to you to begin with.
All right. Well, since we're talking about Alexa, and I do want to say that in our show today, we are covering a couple stories from the week prior that were important. That were on top of the Amazon Australia story. So we're kind of putting 2 weeks here together, but you know, it is what it is at this point. So Amazon sold millions and millions of Alexa-powered devices over Thanksgiving Cyber Monday weekend. So that 4-day, 5-day weekend, and I've heard it called the Turkey 5, the Cyber 5. I don't know. There's all kinds of new terms that are come up with it. It'll be interesting to see what Google's sales are. That I haven't seen anything anywhere that discussed how much Google has sold, but my guess is that Amazon will continue even after this holiday weekend to lead the field. Also, about 2 weeks ago, within 10 days ago, Bitcoin blasted past 10,000. Well, actually, it's now an old story. As of right now, it's at 16,700 something. Then again, every second it goes up or down. Yeah, 16,748 is the current price I have.
I mean, Bitcoin fascinates me because I get asked about it so often, and it's
and I have been. I'm going to write a few articles about Bitcoin more. I'm going to bring it into our little blog here, because not the technical side of it, because to me the technical side of it's still voodoo. But yeah, but some other aspects of it. I do know one of the things that made it go up over the last 12 hours was that in the United States, one of the future exchanges, actually a regulated exchange, was trading Bitcoin futures. So how that all works out, and there's another one coming online a week from now. So that'll probably end up being in an article, because it's sort of the mainstreaming of Bitcoin to some extent.
Yes.
And there are more places nowadays, and I've been actually looking around where you can buy things with Bitcoin, at least online, that is. But it's still the volatility of it is really the problem, which is what the story's about. For the typical e-commerce seller, It's yeah, the trend has been going up and up, but it can have significant cash flow implications if you don't pay attention and start accepting Bitcoin without thinking about it.
Yeah, for sure. I mean, I just want to jump in very quickly there. I mean, it's I see the sort of trend that I get is that the financial world will keep telling you it's a bubble because they really don't like it. And I can understand why, because if cryptocurrencies did eventually take over traditional currencies, it would really, really mess up their livelihood. So they really don't want crypto to work. And yet you watch the internet guys, they really are heavily backing this. Like the Winklevoss, it came out, I don't know if you heard about the Winklevoss twins, Bitcoin billionaires now. And we spoke with Gary Vaynerchuk, heavily invested, and a few of my guys heavily invested, a few years ago. It's very, very curious. And I think, like I said, I made more money on Litecoin last week than I did on Bitcoin. But again, it's just like you said, it's so volatile. It does put a lot of people off the market. But I think it's here to stay largely. And I do think there has to be a crash and a sort of a reset on it soon. I would guess around the $20,000 mark. We may see that happen. But it's all speculation, isn't it? It's all
because we said we were going to say that at the 10,000 mark, and it didn't happen.
Exactly.
Then the next one was the 15,000. It didn't happen. As a matter of fact, I think in one day it went from 15,000 to 19,000 in a matter of 10 minutes, and then came back down to 17, which is part of its problem. The other ones, Ethereum and Litecoin, are not as volatile, but there's still a fair amount of volatility in those, but they're not. Right
you're not
now,
talking thousands at that level. You're talking hundreds.
Well, and the other thing is, from an e-commerce point of view, I think BitPay is about the only thing that's mainstream that you can use and integrate in your website to accept Bitcoin with, and they only accept Bitcoin, not the other currencies. So, there's all kinds of stuff with that, and there's hidden fees and all of this as well. And as long as Bitcoin or these cryptos keep going up, then people say, okay, the fees, who cares? But at some point, one of the biggest problems is, liquidity in the financial markets is created by people also going short on something. So in other words, they're saying if something's worth $1,000, if a stock's worth $1,000, they say, well, this stock should be going at 900. If it goes to 900, they make money. Don't want to get into a financial, blog post now, but effectively that creates liquidity, and that's one of the things with Bitcoin. It's been the only thing it's been doing is really going up constantly. And what happens if it starts to stagnate? Then you need liquidity from through some other means, and that'll be the interesting part. But anyways, next on, Amazon signs contract with Swiss Post. Entry into Switzerland appears to be imminent. What's interesting about Switzerland, for those in the United States that think that Switzerland is part of Europe, which is true, but they're not part of the EU, and therefore, if you're going to send something into Switzerland from any of the European countries that are part of the EU, it has to actually go through customs. And so, in essence, what Amazon has done is they made a deal with Swiss Post to do 3-hour customs clearance of packages, and they're going to manage this from Germany. And it appears to be that Germany is becoming sort of a central hub in parts of Europe, because Luxembourg is also being managed from Germany. That's in part of the EU, so there's no tax issues here. So it's kind of interesting how maybe we might see some, I think there's some parts of Austria, or maybe even all of Austria, that is covered from Germany, from what I remember reading. So it seems Germany is becoming a little bit of a central hub here for Amazon, as far as their warehouses is concerned. And I guess it makes good sense to some extent. Obviously, it's interesting also in the way of Brexit. If Amazon was able to do a deal with Swiss Post, guess what? They'll be able to do a deal with British government at some point if that becomes necessary. Although I think Amazon is well represented in the UK with warehouses, that shouldn't be an issue. I don't think they think that Switzerland right now is big enough to have its own warehouse. So. Well, that's that part. I don't know. Maybe you need
I'll
to
make us aware of.
Then eBay, everybody's kind of doing these treasure trucks, and we'll talk about treasure trucks in a little bit. But eBay went a little bit retro, dug up an Airstream. This is in the old style, so over here in the U.S. Caravan, and painted it with all kinds of colors. And first went to New York City, oddly enough, right around the corner from Macy's, which is where a lot works now. But they have also been to Chicago, and I believe yesterday I saw Seattle. And I think they're heading to, guess where, San Jose too. So it's just it's a marketing gimmick. It's a way to get people a little bit excited about eBay. I think it's kind of a cool idea. Probably didn't cost them that much, and they'll get some goodwill out of it. Then eBay in the UK has added tire installation services. This is very similar to that eBay Motors has here in the United States, where if you buy tires on eBay, they can now schedule them to have it installed on your car. The difference in the UK appears to be that they're working only with one company that is already an online source for tires, and they're using all their centers to do this with. So it's not, so you're limited. You can't just buy tires from any shopper in order for the service like it is in the US. It's a little bit more limited, but we'll see where this goes in the UK over time. And maybe one of the reasons is there might be some different laws regarding warranties and things like that might have forced them to do it differently. Here in the U.S., the manufacturer always sort of is stuck with the warranty. Interesting article was, are paper catalogs making a comeback? The U.S. Postal Service, obviously it's self-serving because they want to get people to use the mail, but they did find some studies or had a study and commissioned a study, and also was somewhat backed up by other studies that were not part of the Postal Service, that appears to show that while mail volume for catalogs is down, because there's now less quote-unquote junk mail coming into the house, people are actually looking at catalogs, and response rate from paper catalogs are up.
That's curious.
Sears this year, for the first time in 6 years, brought back their wish book because of this. IKEA sends out catalogs. There's a lot of people still sending out catalogs, and apparently they're finding people are using them. And would this apply to mail pieces that are just advertising? They didn't address this. So, but the key point here is, because the volume is down, and I've noticed it myself, when I get mail now, it's like, okay, and even if it looks half junky, I still open it. Oh, I wonder who sent me something. It's, in the old days, I was chucking them away, and now I do personally look at more mail. So maybe there is something to that. Maybe I'm just an old fogey and just used to the paper thing, and but I don't know. It's just something to consider. Now, drones obviously in the news. We've had them in the news for a while now. India's government is considering some regulations that would allow the use of drones for e-commerce deliveries. Obviously, there are some air traffic issues that you have to deal with. They have a draft that they created that they're now looking at. We'll see where this all goes. If there's no country to date that has a blanket policy yet for drones, the closest thing that we have for commercial drone use for e-commerce was Reykjavik in Iceland, where they're actually using it to go across that river. But it's not from door to door. India is looking to do door to door. So just something to keep an eye on. And obviously, if one country does it, then others will start looking at it more as well. American Airlines had a little bit of an interesting story here in the U.S. They had a problem with their scheduling system, and all of a sudden, all these pilots were taking their time off. And they found they had thousands of flights with no pilots for over the Christmas holidays. Now, obviously, in the news media, this was all about, how are we going to be able to, flight's going to cancel and go see, mom, dad, or the uncle, the rest of the family or whatever. But there was actually an e-commerce side of it that was ignored in the most of the news, and I highlighted in this article, which is American Airlines. While it is not the biggest carrier of mail, it's, I believe, third. FedEx is number one. That's the main contractor. I think Delta was number two. But it is still ships a lot of, or transports a lot of U.S. mail. So if this would have actually been a problem, this wasn't just on Christmas Day. This was going to start prior to that. It could have impacted some shipments. So basically, sellers can relax. Americans filled all their planes. They have plenty of cargo space. No issues. So whatever the Postal Service needs, packages will get transported. Well, we already mentioned, and it's just a quick thing. We had lots of little stories about Amazon in Australia coming online, and we had these little hints, and then all of a sudden, we saw some HTML, and we're like, oh, this is interesting. There's definitely changes to HTML, and then poof, more stuff started to pop up because all three of us, myself, Dave, and even Matt, kept looking at Australia, what's new, what's different, and we were like on Skype, oh, we got this now. So it was kind of funny, and in some extent, it went live, and we were, I think you said it in the podcast, we were one of the first ones to actually say it's live, folks.
I think I'm pretty sure it was, as soon you spotted the HTML change, which I didn't see anyone else cover. Yeah. I was in Rome at the time, but like I said, I tried looking back, and I think we were well ahead of the curve, and I think we were one of the first, especially e-commerce sites.
Yeah.
Like everyone else got it on the 5th, I think, and we announced it on the 4th. So I think we were a good few hours. So again, hat tip to Richard on that one.
Well, I think, also Matt, he actually provided some things there, so we got to say,
the elusive Mr. Osborne there in the background.
Yeah, he actually sent a couple things where, oh, okay, let me look at that, and then we went from there. So it was a community effort. While you were in Rome, it was a community effort.
Yeah, absolutely. I was making sure it was fine. Italy was good, guys. Don't have to worry. They were doing things similar to Germany, like 10% off on Black Friday. So don't worry about it. They were really getting involved.
Yeah, exactly. So, all right, now to you, I believe.
So over to me. So again, following on from that, I did do the podcast last Thursday, special edition one on Amazon Australia. The feedback so far seems to be quite lackluster from Amazon buyers on the ground there, purely because they've probably seen all the hype that, I'm guilty of it, that we have here in the UK. I love Amazon Prime, same day delivery, Grand Tours back on, happy days, we're all good. And they're not quite seeing the full suite of Amazon yet. Amazon obviously launched the Australian marketplace on a sort of a beta style release, slow release. It was invite only, 500 suppliers, I think, or 500 sellers, which means they've got quite a wide catalog, but not much competition, which means prices are not really competitive. And that's the problem, is a lot of people have thought in their mind, oh yeah, Amazon is going to be really cheap, blah, blah, blah. And then people, we can get cheaper on eBay or cheaper on websites.
Well, and they only have one fulfillment warehouse, and unlike Switzerland, Australia is a slightly larger land mass.
It is. It's a bit more of a behemoth to tackle. So obviously Prime isn't there yet. Like I said, they've only got the one fulfillment center in South Melbourne. They have apparently Amazon have bought some land in Sydney. So again, that's where we're expecting to see another one. Rumors and guesstimates so far is that Prime will go live in the summer 2018. And I think that's when we'll start seeing Amazon Australia sort of come into its own and become the Amazon that we know here in the West.
Yeah,
we'll have to wait and see. Next up, Bill Gates, Jeff Bezos say logistics technology has biggest potential. This was just a bit of a fun piece coming from both Jeff and Bill Gates, stating that they saw logistics technology as being one of the next big areas for sort of disruption and also to make money. It makes total sense. E-commerce is growing, and in order for e-commerce to work, logistics has to work. So logistics.
Well, it's perfect for Bill Gates to be part of it, because Microsoft can be very disruptive to your logistics and operations. Oh, did I say this out loud?
Oh dear.
When the blue screen of death happens, that's a disruption.
I mean, we can look at what Amazon have done. Jeff is totally on board with logistics technology. I mean, you just look at Amazon Logistics here in the UK, the only people, or one of the only, or certainly the first, but now one of the only to do same-day delivery on the scale that they can offer. Obviously, patented drone technology and all the rest of it. They Jeff is standing by his words on logistics technology, and I expect as we've seen as well with the August smart locks and Walmart, it's a type of logistics technology. Again, it's curious. I think we will see a lot more developments of that in 2018. Next up, I don't know how to pronounce this. Cainiao network.
Yeah, I don't know either.
I don't know. It's basically Alibaba's.
I flunked Chinese on Mandarin.
I can eat it. That's about it.
Yeah.
Alibaba's logistics affiliate delivered at least 812 million orders on Singles Day this year, 23% larger than last year's 657 million orders. Again, that's just we talked about Singles Day. It's much bigger than Black Friday here in the West, and again, that's just
China. Another one of those land masses that's slightly larger than Switzerland.
And it is another one that is, again, checking the map. Yes, you're right, slightly larger than Switzerland. You could probably only fit a few thousand Switzerlands in China. So, it's one to bear in mind. Automation could eliminate 800 million jobs. That's an estimate that has been thrown around last week. And it makes sense. And this follows on, Richard, from a chat we were having in the last one about minimum wage and how, is rising minimum wage a good idea because people are just going to get replaced with robots because all of a sudden they become more cost effective, more people out of a job. And yeah, it's a curious one. And that again leads
one of the interesting aspects of automation that I've read in the past is that China specifically has done so much to become the world's manufacturer, and all that was, I mean, when you look at Foxconn, the pictures, like when they do the Apple phones and stuff, or any other, you see all these people, like, the first ones to probably go away. And that's going to be real interesting for, for places like China. The Western countries went to China to use them as cheap labor and to build products. And now, as automation comes up, they're going to start maybe thinking about bringing some of this back home to avoid the big logistics involved with it. So that's another little twist on all of this. That when you see 800 million jobs, those jobs may not be necessarily in Western countries. They might be in actually more the developing countries. So just a side note.
Very true indeed. And I do think it's curious how, I think we mentioned this previously, right? The local McDonald's here, now they've just got like 12 touch screen things, and then you go to the counter and some person hands you a bag, and there's no longer like 6 people taking orders anymore. They've been replaced by 12 computers, and that one obviously still got the kitchen staff, but the front of house, they're not there anymore. And that's an example of how automation is now.
I should have taken a picture last Monday when I drove to Daytona, when I had to stop for gas at a Wawa, which is one of our major mega, gas stations with the food mart and stuff in it.
Yeah.
And I wasn't really going to eat. I was just going to get gas, but getting me water to drink. And I walk in there. It's like there was a whole substation thing there. And I'm like, oh, cool. They had about 6 screens. I was like, oh, okay. Well, let's try this. So I put in my whole sub order in there. 5 minutes later, I paid for it, then took the little slip over there, picked it up, walked out the door. I'm like, this is cool.
So I always wondered if Subway would ever do a drive-through and they'd have like 6 windows. So bread you want, next window. So meat you want, next window.
There is a story I'm working on for this week because I already put it on my storyboard. Talks about how Chevrolet, I think it was Chevrolet, it's working on using the car consoles for e-commerce.
Yes.
Wait for this.
I heard this. Fascinating stuff. That's the potential to be quite a disruptive tech.
Yes.
So again, very curious to see how that. I know GM were working on this in-car marketplace idea as well. Again, another story which will be coming out this week. Fascinating stuff. But yeah, and also just for the record, I do know subways do have drive-throughs. I have to say it was a joke. But anyway, next up, Magento Specialist Sonassi has been bought by iomart to increase their e-commerce offering. Sonassi was a hosting provider. I think they originated out of Manchester here in the UK. It's one of the leading Magento hosting platforms in the UK. Has been bought out by iomart. I think iomart recently bought Simple Servers as well, which again was based in the Midlands. They were again another Magento specialist hosting company. So iomart really going after the Magento e-commerce guys and getting them on board. Next up, augmented and virtual reality products to reach $17.8 billion turnover in 2018. That just goes to show the growth of augmented and virtual reality. I still believe virtual reality is a little bit further away. Too much reliance on hardware, whereas augmented reality with your phone, and I know you can get the funny little face masks to go put your phone in, but then who's going to walk around the street wearing them? Augmented reality, on the other hand, has a much more real life sort of example. We've covered how some e-commerce stores are using augmented reality already, who take things from the catalog and put them around your home, see how they look. I do think that's very, very sort of cutting edge stuff, and I do expect to see much more of that in the new year. I believe Amazon are working on it. IKEA, we've already seen do it. There's the Shopify guys who are already doing it. I can't remember the name of them. But yeah, so it is curious. It's one of those where I think it's going to be the big guys who make waves with this. It's going to be very expensive for any small to medium-sized business to start cataloging in AR for the time being, but one to keep an eye on for sure. Next up, Amazon launches the Relay app to assist truck drivers. Again, more logistics tech, how Amazon are helping their logistics drivers become more efficient, basically. It's supposed to help truck drivers pick up and drop off items from Amazon warehouses. Apparently it's had over 5,000 downloads on Android. And yeah, it's a curious one. Obviously, again, further examples of how Amazon are getting more involved in the logistics side, trying to make it more efficient and blah, blah, blah. Trying to speed up here. Study finds humans lean on their dogs to relieve stress. This was a bit of a fun one. And obviously at the time of this time of year, Christmas time, it isn't uncommon for people to get sort of deep down and depressed. And if they're alone at Christmas, Samaritans always get very busy. But the study finds that dogs are a great stress reliever and they make people feel better. And we just thought it's a bit of a fun one to throw in there on a slow news week last week. I'm a big fan.
We always say we cover 90% is for the hardcore stuff, and then there's you find a few little things here and there that are just sort of the interesting.
Lighten the mood a little bit, I find.
Yeah, exactly.
Anyway, after that, we have eBay survey reveals Americans' nostalgia about holidays past. This was a curious one, and yeah, it's. The eBay did this survey and actually found out that a lot of Americans wanted or relived like positive memories of past Christmases where it was less about the commercialness, but like more Christmas lights and decorations and the train around the Christmas tree, that sort of stuff. And it was interesting to see how a lot of Americans seem to be wanting to go back to those times rather than this over commercialized holiday, and get back to what Christmas was traditionally about, sort of family and spending time together and stuff, and when they're falling out on Boxing Day. And so
But one of the interesting things I noticed this year, and for some reason I don't know why, maybe, but it's like in our neighborhood here, there's a lot more people have Christmas lights up, outside Christmas lights. I ought to take some pictures of Christmas in Florida. There's no snow. But we got lots of lights.
Your snow is white sand, yeah. The Christmas lights is a funny one here. I live in the city, so not much to see.
Climbing those scaling those to that building on 12th floor, so that
trying to get your icicle drop lights on your story apartment's difficult.
Plus it's freezing cold outside.
I need the cranes, so very boring. But yeah, no, I think it's. I've not seen the Grindelwald family yet. Put it that way. I've not seen someone go mental. But yeah, not Grindelwald, is it? What are they called? Griswold.
Griswold, yeah.
Griswold, not Grindelwald. That's a Harry Potter.
You know, the funny thing is, even Daytona Speedway has now set up something where you drive through the grandstands, because you can drive underneath it. There's a whole service area.
Oh yeah.
And they set up a thing where you can do Christmas lights, or they have set up Christmas lights. I never got a chance to go over there and look at it, but I know a friend of mine who's the starter. She goes, it was kind of weird because they were on the whole time during the test, and I kept looking to see these things flashing.
Oh dear.
Anyways, back to
the e-commerce stuff. UPS says delivery is delayed after many online holiday orders. This was news that UPS had actually come out and stated that some deliveries will be delayed due to an exceptional load of online orders coming in over sort of Black Friday, Cyber Monday. This one surprised me a little bit, because it's like, how are you guys getting caught out by this? This happens every year. Surely, and people were forecasting back in March what the year-on-year growth would be of e-commerce, so you should maybe bear in mind that might affect you as well, and therefore plan accordingly. I understand there's some things out.
I'm going to defend UPS on this one. I think the years past, you're correct. I think this year they really put a lot of effort into it. Mm-hmm. They hired a lot of people, really looked at doing. I think no one, I think the Saturday delivery idea, what they started in a lot of parts, as well as just the amount of packages I think they received that didn't come from Amazon, that came from other sources, like Walmart and others. I think that all surprised them a bit, because Amazon had been relying less on UPS, so the big growth that we might have seen might have been all big Amazon. But what that shows is there's still a huge growth going on in other at other stores and other e-commerce stores, including small businesses.
Absolutely.
And that use UPS, and I think that is where it happened to some extent, and that might have been that, it was really, they're talking about mostly that 4 to 5 day span. I haven't heard anything recent, so I'll give them a mulligan on that for the time being. Let's see what the end result will be, but it was a bit surprising, but they hired a lot of people, so. And DHL came out and said we're hiring 6,000 people after the weekend. It's like, Macy's was hiring people after the weekend. So when you look at some of these other news bits and pieces that were out there, you start realizing maybe this is a really big shopping season this year.
Yeah, maybe they're thinking we haven't seen the peak yet, or maybe we need more people on the ground to ease the load of what we've been going through.
Well, remember the Super Saturday, the last Saturday before Christmas, is the biggest shopping day nowadays. Although it will not impact e-commerce this year because there's no business days in between.
No, very true. Christmas Eve's a Sunday, isn't it? So yeah, it's not that bad. Curious one for sure. And finally, Maya quietly launches a new online retail platform. This again was a curious one. Again, we don't have Maya here in the UK, but Maya Market is now a marketplace which allows third-party sellers to use their platform for business. The best way to describe it is a mix of eBay's branded stores and the Amazon Marketplace. They did the soft launch on November 23rd and have since sort of opened it up.
And I think they got a little bit of extra publicity because Amazon was having difficulties. So I noticed that this story was all of a sudden headline news in many Australian websites because always tied to, well, Amazon is behind, and here goes Maya, our local boys. So
good bit of newsjacking by those guys. So fair play on that one.
Yeah, exactly.
And also we just got G Morgan on the live chat who said, I actually ordered something last week using Prime. It's not very fast as it won't arrive until next Friday. So I asked whereabouts he was, and he says he's in Northern MN. Is that Maine? Northern MN, capital M, capital N.
Oh, in the United States?
Yeah.
Minnesota. No, MN is in Minnesota.
Minnesota. So it's in northern Minnesota, and the item was shipping from West Coast. So yeah, that's
on Amazon Prime.
Yeah, he said, because is there not a 2-day delivery now?
Yeah, there is one quirky thing that Amazon plays at times is the guarantee is 2 business days.
Right.
And when they get behind, they pull back to the 2 business days. While typically they do it in 2 actual days, they will pull back to 2 business days. So if you order something on Friday, it may not show up till Tuesday if you go by the definition of the 2 business days. But if it's
unless again, it has been known that Amazon will sort of bottleneck orders if they've been incredibly busy. They will start sort of, and sometimes without you even knowing, they'll move the goalposts on their estimated delivery times. And
to be fair, I have seen, like, for example, I ordered 2 of the little dots 2 days ago. And they're not going to be in stock for 10 days. So sometimes they will even tell you, it'll say in stock, but once you get to the checkout part, then all of a sudden, delayed delivery, blah, blah, blah. Or something. So there's a little bit.
I would check, G Morgan, I would check what Amazon actually stated in the shipping, if you can still find that, like estimated delivery day.
And then here's the other thing you can do is when it does show up, just complain to Amazon customer service. Hey, I didn't see it that way. This is not your normal way of doing business, blah, blah, and they'll give you an extra free month.
Yeah, they'd usually just give you a free month of Prime.
Yeah, so why not?
Yeah, one to bear in mind there, Mr. Morgan.
I've had 3 free months so far.
God, Amazon Manchester is just too good. They never.
I love Amazon Prime when they screw up. I root for them to screw up. Get my free month. Anyway, all right. Speaking of Amazon, Amazon Handmade has teamed up with the Prime group and do some handcrafted items for ultra fast delivery, including same day. The way they're doing is they're basically taking curated pieces where they have plenty of stock of and moving it into warehouses that are close enough. It's it's a little bit of a dig at Etsy. My comeback to this would be, it's like, well, if you have that many to move around all these warehouses for ultra fast delivery, how much of a handmade item can it be? It's not. So if the tweener, it's not totally handmade because it's already pre-made. So somebody made 100 of them, in order to, they obviously did it as a marketing push for handmade. I believe Amazon is struggling slightly to gain Etsy sellers and buyers because of the fact of just the community. Etsy has a nice little community niche there, and it's hard for a giant company like Amazon to really break into that. But if there's something that you need fast and you want to be more unique, there's maybe an opportunity to find something on Amazon Handmade. eBay Authenticate, which started for individual sellers, is now coming to business sellers. Same deal right now, just handbags and a couple of wallets, I believe. Also, same thing. You have to send it into them. It will be a 20% fee down the road. Right now, they're doing it for 10. They are doing the whole listing. They are doing all the shipping. So those are the costs you don't have in addition to it. This was obviously an easy expansion. I think they started with individuals just to get going to see how it would work, and now they can, put businesses into this. Then back to Amazon. Actually, a couple of Amazon stories. Amazon's push with the smart speakers, as we talked about earlier, they sold millions of them globally over a Black Friday weekend or Cyber 5 or Turkey 5 or whatever. But then also last week they announced they would be opening up Amazon Music in 28 other countries. And why that matters is that is one of the big things with the speakers. They want to push the music part of it. And so by opening up in 28 other countries and integrating their music service into this, it'll just push more the speaker business, and then in turn we'll do also more for using the Echo products for ordering online. I just alluded to this. Amazon's trying to go after Etsy's business. Is it really working? I have personally my doubts that it is working. So read the story and see what I'm talking about. You know, clearly Amazon is gaining some handmade business. Clearly they are maybe even larger than Etsy to some extent, but I think that Etsy has a unique niche that's going to be hard to get to from a large.
I think well, someone just commented in the chat saying a lot of Etsy sellers are now setting up Amazon shops. I think this could just be the multi-channel of handmade. It'll be, you know, people sell on eBay and Amazon. People now sell on Etsy and Amazon handmade. Why not do both?
I would say that, you know, I know, you know, and this has been also, I know this has been a controversy in Etsy in the past, that there's some sellers who will buy things from China that are blank and then have other people here in the United States paint them and do other things and
modify them.
Yeah, and do it in a mass production type of environment. I think those are the sellers you're seeing to go over. I think the real individual crafts people, artists, I don't see that, you know. I don't know.
There seems to be a lot of loyalty to the Etsy platform, is what I've noticed. And I've used Etsy twice. I'm not a very arts and craftsy kind of person, but both times communication has been great, and both times I've ordered from America, from American sellers. Both sellers included like a little gift and a handwritten note in the box, and again, it felt very personal, and I can see why. If you're in that space of wanting those types of products, you'd fall in love with Etsy and the people and the sellers, and because it all feels like a nice community to be in, which I think we miss out. You know, eBay perhaps used to be like that many years ago.
Yes, exactly. Yeah, the personalization is probably the thing that's definitely missed out on the Amazon side of it, and I think that's when Etsy can, you know, bring opportunity to more people that do really individual work, you know. And this one, you know, this is kind of a semi-fun one that I found. Mercedes-Benz demonstrates the van as a mobile mailbox. And basically, I mean, you're like, okay, you know, we've seen, and I think we even had the story, UPS did it, where they had one of their vans and they put a drone on top of it. Well, what Mercedes was trying to show with one of the minivans is that it can be used as a way not to deliver from the van like UPS was doing, but to bring product to the van so that the van can do the actual delivery. So then there's a couple of uses here. First of all, let's take Amazon. You have a fulfillment warehouse. Somebody puts an order in. Oh, need this. Then they know this van is in this neighborhood. Okay, so they put the item on a drone and send it to the van, and then the van driver delivers it. That makes it actually could work really well, because now you're taking away from where's the drone going to drop off an item at a house, because now you have a human still doing the actual delivery, making a decision where to drop it off. But because you can send the product straight to the van that's already in the field, you can do, you know, express deliveries. And of course, for Mercedes, the other side of that was to use it for like craftsmen, like not craftsmen, tradesmen that you know, plumbers and such. You know, they need a part. Well, call the warehouse wherever you buy it from, or if it's part of a bigger corporation, there's, you know, that has their own warehouses, and have the part delivered straight to the work van. So it's a really interesting concept, and it might overcome some of the issues that exist with drones, as far as how do you get it to actually go to a place on your house that is safe, a location. By having it come to the van, you know, it's a lot easier to maybe from a regulatory point of view to manage that. So that's I thought it was kind of interesting.
Yeah, very interesting, very curious indeed.
And then we had a couple stories today which happened to coincide with Green Monday.
Exactly. So again, the first one from me was eBay. Again, apparently this was an eBay thing. Green Monday released last-minute deals that will begin on the 10th anniversary of Green Monday. Starting today, Scott Cutler, Senior VP of eBay Americas, has said, historically, Green Monday has been one of the biggest shopping days of the year for eBay. We see a sense of urgency from shoppers to check people off their list during this time of year. On eBay, they'll find great deals that include fast and free shipping, and we're making it easier than ever to find and fulfill last-minute gift orders. with that said, some ideas of what's been going on the eBay.com sale today. A Samsung 75-inch 4K LED TV, 60% off. Bose sound systems, 50% off. Black & Decker robot vacuum, 68% off. KitchenAid mixer, 57% off. As well as Ray-Ban sunglasses for men and women, starting at $55. Calvin Klein outerwear, 65% off. And a whole host of other deals going on throughout the day. So eBay today, if you're looking for gift ideas, ebay.com, check it out. There seems to be quite a lot of hype going on for Green Monday over at eBay, and looks like some good deals to be had.
And if you're an eBay seller, try to take advantage of it with a quick little fixes to some of your listings that maybe not performing as well.
Some strike throughs.
Right. Well, and then I posted a story after this saying, "Is it really still a thing?"
Cheers, Rich. Contradicting me.
I sort of like the counterpoint to this is like, why is it? So let's go back a little bit in history quickly. eBay saw some on the analytics that people at the second Monday in December were going online shopping, because if they hadn't found it by that time, the belief was, and studies had shown that, it's like, well, I got to get it and I got to buy it somewhere, so I'm going to buy it, and I need to make sure I have plenty of time for it to arrive, because the second Monday, it just happens to be usually about 10 days or so out from Christmas. Well, okay, 10 years ago, that was, especially in the size of the United States, a concern. If you order something from, if you're in Florida and you order something from Seattle, it'll take a good week to show up. So you wanted to make that happen. Of course, other e-commerce players decided to take on this Green Monday moniker as well. And actually, in the story that I have, I linked to a graph that shows that it has progressed nicely. And in 2014, Amazon used it, but then probably realized, oh, wait a second, we're really promoting eBay here, so we're now going to call it the 12 days of deals, and changed it for 2015. Now, that's not what they said, but that's what I'm reading between the lines. And that brings me to the point with Walmart and others that have now come in, and pretty much everybody and their brothers offering 2 to 3 day delivery. Even eBay is pushing 2 to 3 day delivery by using priority mail and other. Is Green Monday still a thing with it being 10 days out?
It's a good question. I mean, I just, whilst you were talking there, jumped over to ebay.com. Next deal in 6 minutes. They are running different highlight, and the current one is a Garmin GPS watch, 57% off, down from $700 to $300. If the deals are as good as they're supposed to be, then
I mean, if you spent 10 years investing into a concept called Green Monday, you might as well just keep pushing it.
Absolutely, especially if you've got the market share on it. If everyone thinks Green Monday is an eBay thing, then
and since Super Saturday this year isn't going to really work for you anymore.
Yeah, well, that's very true. Yeah,
I just is it still a thing? Clearly for eBay it is. Clearly for smaller sellers it might be that I'm more reliant on regular shipping methods that don't have fulfillment warehouses or use Amazon FBA to fulfill their orders. But I noticed that when I was doing a little research that others like Walmart and Target aren't really using the moniker, yet they are kind of sort of pushing some sales. But in the story, I also pointed out, boy, we've went from one name, Black Friday. We now have Black Friday, Small Business Saturday, which was invented by American Express, Cyber Monday, which was actually invented in 1995 and by Shop.org and taken over now by Amazon and everybody else. Then we have Giving Tuesday, which was a social media thing, a hashtag that basically now has become a day. We now have Super Saturday, or some people call it Panic Saturday, and we have Green Monday. It's like, but what else can we invent? Should we have eSellerCafe Monday, the third Monday?
Let's get quick. Let's get that a thing. I've just checked the .co.uk, not a mention of green anything, let alone Green Monday, which isn't surprising as I'd never heard of it before. Yes. With that said, now we've talked quite a while. We had a lot of stuff to catch up on. But with that said, we're going to get on to the discussion round and some of the more sort of controversial / interesting / talkable things that have been going on this past week.
So eBay pulls back from its watermark policy. If you remember, in the in the fall sale update, they said that by sometime, I think it was March or whatever, early 2018, or April 2018, you had to have all the watermarks removed from your listings, from your images. And sellers were like, well, you're giving us 6 months to do it. Now, I'm one of these people that say 6 months is plenty of time, but apparently a lot of sellers have issues with that. And I can understand if somebody has thousands and thousands of images, it would be very time consuming. I believe there's another reason for this. I think there's a lot of watermarks on a lot of product images that they receive from manufacturers and catalogs. And that was going to create a problem. I think they themselves have to clean up a lot of images and start realizing how bad this will be. And I say this with the watermark or the stuff because I know, at least in automotive parts, that is the case. There's a lot of imagery with little things in it. I haven't seen it as much in other areas, but I believe there's a combination of things going on here that they might have realized that their own catalog was full of images with watermarks, maybe even some that were user created, because you have to remember that they also last year changed the policy that any image you upload now becomes their property. Therefore, they can use it to advertise even a competitor's listing technically. So since they're using all these images, they have to, there goes my phone again. And they have to, clean up that might have been the other underlying part of this, that 6 months have been enough for them to do this. And since all these landing pages were created, it would create an interesting problem for them.
Yeah, I mean, it's a curious one. And if you are one of the sellers who has actually already taken the time and effort, maybe Christmas isn't your peak season, and you've been removing watermarks and graffiti from all of your images, the message from eBay is that don't worry, you are still in a better position. And that was that was sort of like the underlying tone of the message, is that yes, although we are delaying the strict, imposing of the no watermark rule, images that do not have watermarks are much more likely to show up in Google Shopping and also feature in any eBay promotive, material. So overall, it's still the way to go.
Google Shopping being the big one. That is, I think, which was the impetus, I think, to start this whole process.
Yes, absolutely. Ever since Google slapped eBay so hard a few years ago, and basically you stopped seeing eBay in Google Shopping results, they've been trying to make a way of coming back, and this was a big step in that direction. And also, it's just a cataloging of eBay as well. You look at Amazon's catalog, all clean, crisp images, white backgrounds, and no watermarks. eBay are wanting the same thing, and you can't really have that with watermarked images. So I agree with you, though. I think there's 6 months is plenty of time. If you are a big business, you have the means by which to go about changing those images. And if you're a small to medium-sized business, then you definitely have the time available to go about making those changes. So much so that I said, if I was you in a small to medium-sized business, I would hold off until mid to end January and then do it, so as to not interrupt any sort of listings on the run-up to Christmas, knowing that there was still enough time until March to get them all sorted. So, I mean, there's software tools out there which can remove backgrounds and watermarks for you, not for a lot of money either. So I don't think, like I said, it seems to me that they say that they've had a lot of complaints about it, which they probably have, because people don't like change on eBay, and people think that eBay are just doing this because they want to, not for actual any sort of reasons behind it. But yeah, I think largely it's still going to happen. They're still going to bring it in. They're just delaying it. But ultimately, I think it's still the way to go. Yeah. Still the way to go. Still get rid of, because I mean, a good example of this is eBay Australia. If you are a UK or a USA sort of buyer and you're used to seeing the ebay.com or .co.uk site, go and take a look at ebay.com.au. Go and do a search, and just see the amount of graffiti and stuff that they put all over their images because they don't have this same rule yet. You know, you'll see like an Australian flag and free shipping and for today only and all that. I'm like, oh, it's horrendous. And
this does still exist to a lesser extent in eBay Motors,
yeah,
with parts and accessories. But yeah, I think it's time to get away from all this graffiti because
I think it is. But like you say, it's definitely a curious one as to why they've brought this delay in. For sure.
Yeah, I think it's more than just complaints. I think there's something that they realized behind the scenes. Ooh, we're going to have problems with our own catalog.
Yeah,
personally. Anyways, next one. Actually, I'm going to keep it a little shorter. Postal Regulatory Commission here in the United States, which kind of regulates the Postal Service, proposes that the Postal Service keep raising rates. Got a lot of, a lot of people get upset about this for some reason. And I have to be honest, I mean, yeah, I don't want to spend more money on mail either. But when I look at parcels or packages, a postal service for the most part is relatively reasonable compared to FedEx and UPS, even when you have negotiated rates. And FedEx and UPS every year going up 4 to 5%, and they're talking about 2% here on a yearly basis over the next 5 years. Now, I do agree with what some of the people say that the postal regulations that have been put on by Congress when it comes to pre-funding these pensions is ridiculous because no one in the real world does that. And that is what's causing the big problem for them. And I know they're also looking at buying new vehicles because the existing vehicles they have are not designed for parcels as well. They were all designed with mail in mind, and it's a real mess. I mean, they're getting so much business from Amazon nowadays that when you look in the back of one of their trucks, you see all these Amazon boxes. So, do I think 2% a year for the next 5 years is a lot? No. Is it going to impact other mail pieces? That would be the big thing here. Obviously first class mail, which is our regular letters, and other stuff. That would be a problem. I think they're a nice. Maybe Congress needs to look at it and get rid of the pre-funding of the pensions, the full pre-funding of the pensions part, and at the same time, still say, okay, you got to keep raising your rates here a little bit in certain areas, because they are losing money and have lost money for 11 years. But still, I'm not as personally, at least, I think 2% a year, at least if it were to be only on parcels, when you compare it to the rest of the industry, is nothing.
Yeah, no, it's a curious one how the Postal Regulatory Commission are recommending a UPS raise on the postage.
Well, I guess maybe it's an odd situation here in the U.S. because the Postal Service is own. It's not covered by taxes technically. It is its own corporation, and so Congress has full control over it. But they have this intermediary agency that basically does recommendations. And so there was a law passed 10 years ago that said that they had to look at the whole situation from year by year and then make a recommendation 10 years down the road what to do if the Postal Service still was creating red ink, because the red ink is being funded by taxpayers in some form of fashion, through loans of some kind, I believe. So the whole problem is the Postal Service would like to do something that's slightly different than what Congress tells them to do, basically run it more like a business versus a government entity. But Congress kind of put some things into the requirements and make it run like a government entity. It's a bit of a quagmire, and that's why you have this commission in between, because they're supposed to create this buffer between Congress and the Postal Service. I don't know.
Curious.
It's kind of it's just funny how the Postal Service went from, we're going to go down to 5 days a week to now delivering 7 days a week. And actually, honestly, I think that at least as far as concerned when it comes to parcels, they should open it up to everybody. I mean, if you're going to have people out there delivering Amazon packages, what's a few more other priority mail packages?
Yeah, no, it's true. It's true. And like I say, 2% doesn't seem a lot. And if it helps, like I said, the future for USPS and regarding the sort of a restructure and not a restructure, but, you know, a sort of modernization towards the demands of the e-commerce market, then yeah.
Exactly.
Who knows? Who knows? We want to keep an eye on. And next up, the UK is apparently the world's 3rd largest e-commerce market. And this comes from Trustly. They've done again a survey around Europe and the world, and Great Britain is Europe's most visited online supermarket, online marketplace. It's second only to the United States. And again, it does sort of make sense. Again, I think a big piece for the UK is our logistics, just make everything so easy. We're a nice little tiny island. Shoppers located in Germany. Apparently, 32% of German 32% of the German surveys had bought goods from the UK in the past year. So nearly a third of all online, you know, German operating people had bought something from the UK.
I wonder if the reduction, or I wonder if because with the EU, with the Brexit, because of the British pound sterling kind of losing value, whether that's helped that accomplish a little.
It's a curious one because the next stat I have says regarding UK e-commerce, British consumers would prefer buying from China and the USA instead of any European countries. Oh dear, yeah.
So Europeans like buying from the UK, and UK like buying from anywhere but the UK.
He was like, "No, we'll buy things. Come back." And UK's like, "No, we're going to China and America. Screw you guys." So it's curious.
It's kind of funny how the world works.
You teed that one up perfectly. But yeah, I mean, for me, again, I feel very sort of privileged, I guess, in a way, because obviously I fell into sort of e-commerce by accident. But if I lived in any other country other than the UK or maybe the USA, I probably wouldn't have happened. You know, we're in quite a. I live. You know, we all live. You as well, Richard, in the US. We live in a mature e-commerce market right now. You know, it's very mature. We've got. It's no longer in the stage of people questioning whether they can put the card details in online and whether you buy something, if it's ever going to turn up. You know, we're past that stage now. E-commerce is just a part of everyday life, and yet it's very easy for us to take for granted that that isn't the case in the majority of the world. Obviously, Germany, very, very, again, mature e-commerce market. Australia is a mature e-commerce market. But I would say even like the majority of like France, Spain, Italy to a degree, that again, and whether this comes down to, again, logistics as a thing. You know, we joke about Italian Post. It's not got a good reputation. Again, in parts of
I was trying to figure out what did they do in Italy in August? Is Prime just suspended?
No idea. I have no idea.
I mean, the whole country's on vacation. Who's going to deliver anything?
So again, it is curious, and it does make sense. Like I believe the UK is the second biggest eBay site. I think it's bigger than Germany, even though Germany is obviously the big country. Well, I think we're quite similar on population. And again, it to me, this piece wasn't overly surprising. There's a lot of small businesses online.
Yeah, just having been into Germany a couple of weeks ago, you know, on Black Friday, you know, it's like there's still a lot of local shopping and local buying going on.
Yeah.
I think that even so, it is a big e-commerce market. There are also still a lot of cash. See, that's always been the one thing. The United States is becoming a cashless society. I think you guys in the UK are slowly moving into that direction.
Very much so. Contactless cards.
The Germans are still a lot of cash. You know, and
I noticed that in Italy as well, and that was, I mean, it was quite nice and quite sort of rustic walking around Rome. There was a lot of small independent stores, like there's a man selling bags, a man selling belts, a man selling shoes, you know, and all these, you know, a florist and all these things. And it's like, nowadays I just go online for any of these things. I wouldn't naturally go to a specialist belt shop, or I wouldn't go to a specialist whatever shop. But I hardly, unless you go into like obviously the main shopping road where obviously you've got Burberry and Dolce & Gabbana and all the rest of them, and then further down you've got Zara, H&M, you've got the stores. But in terms of like, I didn't remember seeing a supermarket. There's all these like independent little mini sort of things, and then again like the convenience stores. It was very much a small, independent and cash-heavy society. And I think, you know, I think back to the UK, and yeah, that's probably what we were like 15 years ago. And then I think Tesco, Asda took over, and then Amazon and eBay, and the death of the high street is yet to affect Italy or Rome, from what I've seen in that regard.
And I think some of the rural parts of Germany are the same way. It's like we were in this one place called Bad Münstereifel, which is they turned it into a town was turned into a shopping district basically, and walked in this one store, sold leather handbags and stuff. And shockingly, one had to be purchased without a card. And the lady's like, "Okay, I need to see your ID and a passport and oh, you did not sign a credit card. You did not sign a credit card." And like, no one in the United States signs the back of the credit card anymore, because what's the point? You know, it's like no one ever looks at them. You know, it's like it was just weird. You know, it's just kind of strange, and
it is like going back in time. And that sounds horrible. It's not meant to, but it is like going back in time a little bit.
It was. Exactly. That's exactly what it felt like to some extent. You know, and then when I was at the one grocery store, you know, it was like fourth or fifth in line. I think we were the first ones to use a credit card to pay for it. I mean, so there's a credit card machine there and stuff, but everybody else was giving them cash. It's like, so like
we went into some stores in Rome, didn't even have a card machine.
Yeah, I mean, I think Rome is even more further behind than that.
But, yeah, I would probably say so. Yeah, but no, because Germany, I believe, is the third biggest eBay marketplace.
Yeah. I mean, I think
a big e-commerce audience in Germany for sure, but Italy, just not so much.
But you know, even the Germans today still they still have the, you know, I mean, you would never do this in the United States. Oh, just order something from us, we'll send you a bill. It's still common. Like, could you imagine this in the United States? No one will ever get paid. I mean, I hate to say it, though. It's, you know, there's still a lot of trust.
That's a way of doing business, I guess. But yeah, it's not. It wouldn't happen here in the UK either.
Yeah. So I mean, it's just interesting and curious. So.
It is an interesting one. And finally, we'll move on to the last piece today: the Amazon treasure truck. We covered this last week or 2 weeks ago. They announced that the Amazon treasure truck was coming to the UK. We covered it earlier on in the year that it was actually going on a tour. Previously, I think it just been Seattle and maybe somewhere else. LA.
Yeah, it did a couple. Yeah, Seattle's where it started and did a couple.
And then in this summer it did a bit of a tour. Went from LA to San Fran. Seattle, San Fran, LA, Texas.
No. See, here's the interesting thing. This is the part where I thought that Amazon could have done much better. They should have taken one of the Prime planes, drive it onto the plane, make a big thing out of it, fly it over to UK, and then unload it. Now, it
would have been quite a cool little story to tell, like a video. I could see that doing.
Yeah, that would probably be expensive as hell, but then again,
it's Amazon. It's nothing. Yeah, that would have been quite a cool little story, a cool like marketing video to do for sure.
But I think the most you went you went obviously. I think you were in Rome when I texted you. Oh, look, treasure truck is coming to you.
I was
signed up immediately.
Yeah, I signed up immediately. It sent you the confirmation. Right, I'm signed up because it said Manchester and London. I was like, well, just so happens I'm in Manchester. I'll be on the lookout. So yeah, Amazon Treasure Truck coming to the UK, coming to Manchester and London. And Saturday morning, we'd had snow here for the first time this year, and I got this message, the alert from the app saying, you blah blah blah. The treasure truck is here. You can get this retro Nintendo gaming system for blah blah blah. It's on Portland Street, and I was like, wow, Portland Street is. I can almost see Portland Street from my window. So I was like, nice one. We'll do that. So it said we'll be there from 11 till 5. I was like, great, let's do this. Now, my only regret is that I was dressed slightly like a tramp. I was like, oh, just go take some pictures and blah, blah, blah. And I actually got to chat into a very nice lady who was part of the marketing department for Amazon UK. I was like, I look haggard. I've got this big hobo beard going on.
And then she goes, oh, I've heard of you guys.
Yeah, and that was such a nice thing. I was like, I said, do you mind if I come in, just take a few pictures? I run an e-commerce site. You've probably never heard of us, called eSellerCafe. And she went, oh no, I read your story last week about us coming to the UK. And I was like, hey, we made it. Look, Mom, we're famous. So yeah, that was very nice. It was obviously, and I loved it. I had my picture taken with Mario and Luigi. Obviously part of the Nintendo thing going on there. They were giving away free Super Mario paper hats, and the truck itself was fascinating. It was like this big, like, interactive thing. You pressed it, and music and bubbles started coming out, and it's like a little vending machine where the items were coming out. Very, very cool. There is a video on the post that I wrote for this on Saturday. You can check it out, get a bit of an idea. But my advice would be go over to amazon.co.uk/treasure truck, sign up, download the app. And if it comes to a town near you, go and see it, even if it's even if you don't want to buy whatever they're selling, just to see what's going on. It is a fascinating thing. And I actually said that to the Amazon lady. I just sort of said, I love how you're sort of merging the online with the offline world and sort of doing that brand awareness for Amazon, especially in something like So Fun. I mean, it was such a perfect product as well. This retro Nintendo, because I had one as a kid, this Super Nintendo gaming system with Super Mario and Street Fighter and all those games. And it was so cool to see, because I was there for maybe like 10, 15 minutes, and you were seeing like kids going, having the pictures taken with like Mario and Luigi, and then like looking at the truck and the lights and the music and everything. And then you see the like people my age coming along going, having a picture taken with Mario and Luigi, and sort of saying, oh, I remember playing this as a kid, and oh wow, I can get this with a hard drive built in. And so it was the perfect gift. Like,
did they have other things for sale from the truck? Did they have some of their own Amazon branded stuff?
No, I thought there may have been like some Echo stuff maybe, or like Fire Sticks, but no, as far as I knew, it was just the this Nintendo gaming system.
Yeah. Because I think in the US I sort of remember reading, here's the funny thing, is the treasure truck was in Miami.
Mm-hmm.
The only problem was when it showed up in Miami, it was sort of like in the middle of hurricane getting ready.
In the middle of Hurricane Irma, like, there goes the treasure truck.
I don't even know if they canceled or not, because I remember seeing, oh, the treasure truck is in Miami. I'm thinking to myself, did anybody tell them that there's this thing about 2 days out? That everybody's the only thing people are looking for are generators, water.
Well, maybe that's what they do, because like I said, they picked pretty much the worst day. It was snowing and everything here, but the guys were all wrapped up with they had treasure truck and Amazon on the stuff. But no, it wasn't a great day, but everyone there was so nice, having such a great time.
Nice.
Appreciate everyone who took the time out. If you're watching this, to talk to me and tell me about what was going on, I appreciate it.
Yeah,
and it was, I do definitely recommend you go and try and see a treasure truck.
I'm hoping to come back to Miami for Florida, so I can at least maybe check it out.
You definitely should. I enjoyed it.
Because I was going to go, and I'm like, well, wait a second, I'm not going. I got other things I got to get done first.
You need to batten down the hatches, guys. Now's not the time for playing with treasure trucks.
Yeah, exactly. So, all right, cool.
And that's it. That's pretty much the news for today. We're not going to do a recap. If you've been listening this long, there's too much to go through. But if you do want to keep an eye on the latest news, you can head over to eSellerCafe.com/last-14-days-e-commerce. and that will give you the last 14 days worth of stories. Or if you just go to the homepage, in the top menu, there's a nice little bar there. You can click that and it'll tell you, list them all in chronological order of what's been going on. Anything else to add, Richard?
No, we got a few stories lined up for this week that'll be, as always, interesting. We always find interesting stuff. Then some news breaks. We do expect, just, I think we all know going into Christmas now that not large companies aren't going to really release a whole lot of news. I mean, today there was a piece about that's actually we put up as a press release. American Express is going to no longer require signatures globally sometime in 2018. So, just little things like that is what we're going to have, what we're going to see news-wise. So we're going to try to come up with some things that are sort of fun, interesting, different, but still relate to e-commerce because we know everybody is probably using their kitchen table as a warehouse.
Yeah, very much so, very much so. And just quickly looking at the calendar here, I imagine that next week's will probably be the last one for 2 weeks, as the week after is Christmas Day. I don't think me or Richard are going to be around, and neither will probably you want to be listening to us talk to you about no news going on, pretty much. And obviously the week after that will be New Year's Day. Similarly,
what we might want to do is we might want to do a year end like on the 28th or so.
Yeah, we could do like a summary maybe.
But we'll decide that next week. We'll make a decision
we'll figure out a plan for that. But Mondays probably will not be the day. We'll probably be back with you on the. Obviously, we will be here next week, which is the 18th.
Yep.
But after that, I imagine we will reconvene the usual Mondays on the 8th of January. But do expect. I think a year end is a good one.
You only.
Oh, are you away? Are you away again?
I'm back in Daytona for another test.
Doing some more testing data. So I'll be back with you on the 8th. But we will try and get a year-end special news bulletin out on somewhere between Christmas and New Year.
I just realized that the Ferrari test I'm doing this on the 8th on a Monday, which I do so little stuff on Mondays.
It's all good. It's all good. It's all good. So with that said, guys, thank you so much for listening. Thank you to everyone who joined in on the live chat. We really do appreciate it. If you're listening on the Alexa, well, hey, you're one of the first. Well done. Well done to you on being ahead of the curve. If you're listening on iTunes or any of the other podcasts, thank you so much for tuning in. As always, we appreciate it. Any comments or reviews, we gladly appreciate them. If you have any comments, want to get involved with the chat, head over to eSellerCafe.com and leave us a comment underneath any of the stories on the site, and we'll get back to you as soon as we can. With that said,
and don't tell us to shave just because we're lazy.
No, as you can tell, I've given up shaving. This is my winter coat now. I keep saying descent beard. That's got to be a thing, right? Descent beard.
Yeah, I can.
Shaving's not going to. No,
we are definitely appreciating. We and I know we sometimes ramble on, and hopefully you guys find it entertaining. We try not to just be robots and
we don't. We like to go a little bit off topic and keep it somewhat entertaining on the subject.
That's why you can, if you listen to us on Alexa, just say, Alexa, pause.
Alexa?
Oh, you know what? By me saying it, probably people not pause.
Alexa, self-destruct. Anyway, joking apart, thank you again so much for listening and watching and tuning in. We'll be back with you same time, same place next week. Have a fantastic week, guys. Hope you keep on selling loads of things. And for myself, Dave, thank you so much. We'll catch you next week.
Bye-bye. Take care.